Every time there is a mass shooting like this, I have an objective, I have a goal, and that is to not trample on it for a while, to not talk about it, because invariably, the first thing that happens is the Democrats and the left and the media start the predictable and the usual never-ending loop on gun control. And gun control would not have stopped this, like it wouldn't have stopped any of the other mass shootings. So I generally say, why join the broken record crowd and just take some time and wait until we actually learn some things about this before going off in a strictly half-cocked partisan manner like everybody else is doing. But it's just impossible to do. I can't sit here and not react to what I'm watching. I can't sit here and not react to some of the literal idiocy that is passing for learned analysis and commentary in the media. I try to back out of these things. I try not to play. I try not to enmesh myself in this predictable, never changes political loop that almost seems to feature in a horrible sense, in a horrible sort of way. There seem to be people energized by events like this because it reignites for them an opportunity to bring up a passionate issue, gun control. And it has always made me blanch. It has always offended me. And it offends my sensibilities. It angers me to see people almost excited in the aftermath of an event like this, because of the opportunity that it presents politically. It just disgusts me. And every time I try to back out, every time I try not to play, they suck me back in. And sucked back in I am again today. Greetings, my friends, and welcome. It's the Rush Limbaugh program, the EIB Network. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So there are the usual tropes about gun control. Predictable, nothing new in them. You've heard them all. Don't need me to recount them. There's the usual paranoia. There is the usual scare tactics being employed. There is, in fact, even in this, the usual blame for Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, this is all Donald Trump's fault. The media cannot wait to report tweets from students at the school claiming not to want any words of condolence from Trump because he's nothing but an obscenity and obscenity and obscenity and obscenity, and they don't want to hear his words. It's his fault. And when you see that, you realize how purely political this is and what an opportunity it presents. But if you patiently spend some time, you will hear some people who do make sense, and it serves a purpose to highlight them. Other people don't make sense, and it makes all the sense in the world to highlight them as well. Right before the program started, there was a pretty big press conference with the usual cadre of nameless officials standing behind whoever was speaking. In this case, it was the local sheriff. Standing next to him was Pam Bondi, the attorney general, and then Governor Scott was stage right to the left of the speaker, and then the usual bunch of people behind him. Sheriff, obviously frustrated. Sheriff said something that I found interesting and something that has not... I mean, it's been said before, but it's not part of the loop. The sheriff expressed anger at the federal government. The sheriff expressed anger at federal policy. The sheriff expressed a little anger, frustration, maybe a better word, at the federalization of this. The sheriff said, everybody knew about this guy. Everybody knew about this kid. The FBI had been warned about this kid. The FBI had been warned about the kid. They didn't do anything about it. In fact, you've heard that, right? You've all heard the FBI was given a specific warning after somebody on YouTube saw the guy's threat. And the YouTuber let the FBI know, and the FBI admits that they knew. Is it possible, ladies and gentlemen, that the FBI may not have the resources to deal with complaints like this? How many people at the FBI are still trying to prove that Trump colluded with Russia? How many people at the FBI are being forced to continue to work and waste time on the Hillary Clinton bought and paid for dossier and trying to link it to Donald Trump? Rush, you better be careful, you're politicized. I'm not politicizing anything. I'm reacting. I'm not starting anything here. But when I hear that the FBI knew about this shooter well in advance and didn't do anything, I have to ask why. And then I start trying to answer my own question, why? And the first answer you get is, well, the kid hadn't done anything yet. There's nothing we can do. And besides that, we're federal, and this is a state-local issue. We don't have any jurisdiction down there. There's nothing we can do. Well, maybe, but do you have anybody that could have done anything anyway? Or how many people are still trying to prove after a year and a half here that Trump colluded with Russia? How many people still tracking down Hillary Clinton's opposition research? In fact, folks, I'll tell you, if you want to blame Trump for this, I could just as easily turn it around and blame it on Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton and the Democrats have the FBI so occupied tracking down something that didn't happen, they may not have the resources to pull this kid off the street. How does that sound to you leftists? Absurd? Well, it isn't. But anyway, it takes me back to what the sheriff said. The sheriff said, it was almost pleading. The sheriff said, let us act before these shooters do things. When everybody knows what the shooter is saying on Twitter, posting on YouTube, let us go get the kid. Let us go get the kid and turn him over to mental health professionals and have an examination. Let's get rid of this business where we have to wait for these people to act before we can do anything. And it got me to thinking. We have nationalized the public schools, in a sense, have we not? I mean, school districts, in order to get paid, have to meet federal criteria. That leads to a federal curriculum. The school lunch program, school breakfast program, school snack program, school dinner program, school wine tasting night, school whatever it is all predicated on meeting federal requirements. Even snow days. No, we're a little reluctant here to cancel school because of the snow, because the feds demand that we have 180 days of class, otherwise they're not going to pay us whatever. So it's safe to say that there has been a degree of nationalization of public schools. And when that happens, you know what else happens? The concept of every state becoming an individual laboratory where people in different states can come up with different solutions to different problems to see what works, to try new things rather than to be straitjacketed by federal policy. Right now, the states look to Washington. Schools and states look to Washington. And instead of that, instead of looking to Washington, how about states be granted the responsibility to fix what's happening in their own schools? Because it's different from school to school, circumstances, people. For example, if we allowed the states to independently deal with whatever problems they independently face, we might have some public schools in some states putting armed guards or armed police on premise. I'm not suggesting, I'm just pointing out that somebody might try it. And in so doing, we might find out if it works or not. Right now, there isn't anybody armed at all in these schools except the perps. And the schools themselves are no shoot zones, no gun zones. And the perps all know this. They're sophisticated enough to know this. So if you allowed each state to run its schools, or even you want to get more local than that, allow the school districts to run themselves as they wish. Give this sheriff the power to go grab these troublemakers before they make trouble. See if it works. Find out if it doesn't work. None of that is happening now. In some places, the teachers, some states might allow teachers to have concealed carry permits. That's not the case now. But my point is a whole lot of experimentation, starting long ago, could have been underway by now. To actually come to a solution, actually try to find something that worked to prevent incidents like this, because gun control isn't going to prevent criminal acts using guns. It just isn't going to happen. The evidence, this is one of the reasons why I don't really even like getting into this in the immediate aftermath, because it's just the endless loop. You go to any state, any district, any country where there are strict gun control laws, and look at France and the Charlie Hebdo situation. No guns permitted, cops are not armed. What happened? Bad guys got guns. Bad guys are going to break the law. By definition, they're going to be able to do whatever they need to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. If it needs guns, they're going to get them, whether there's a federal, state, local, Martian law preventing it or not. But all of these different states could have the opportunity to actually experiment with solving this. Federal gun control legislation is not a solution. The solution lies elsewhere. Is the solution video games? Who knows? What is the impact of young kids playing video games where it's easy to kill people with the push of a button, and then they come back to life? They're not really dead. What's the impact of this over the course of a young life? I don't know. Is there a desensitization that takes place with all this? But nobody ever looks to banning that kind of stimuli affecting kids. They immediately target guns because they immediately politicize this and make tracks to score political points. And for the liberal Democrats, this really isn't even about enacting gun control. It's simply about another opportunity to advance the issue. I mean, they'd love to do it, don't misunderstand, but they know it's not going to happen in the immediate aftermath of this. But it gives them another opportunity to start bashing Republicans as the usual. Don't care, no heart, don't care about kids. That's the value of this, plus other things. You know, federalism was designed so that states and communities could address problems according to their experience and judgment. Federalism, it means exactly what the word implies. Federalism implies the federal government doing everything. It's the exact opposite of that. Federalism limits the federal government to specifically enumerated powers, and other than that, it's up to the states. States are supposed to be in charge of education, not opportunistic politicians in Washington. I tell you, it is just disgusting to watch a national political agenda pushed when families and friends and an entire country are grieving after these horrific demonic acts. It is disgusting that within 5 minutes of an event like this, you turn on TV and there's some politician bleating about gun control and then blaming whoever the current Republican leader is for it. You want to ban something? Ban politicians in Washington from commenting on these events for a minimum of 48 hours. You want to ban? You can't do that. Russia has been banning free speech. We can't ban guns either. Second Amendment. But somehow we feel like we can encroach on the Second Amendment for emotional reasons alone. But banning professional politician commentary for 48 hours, you can't do that. Why not? After acts of terrorism affecting air travel, what do? We put air marshals on the flights. They're there. They're on Mays Way, and you know what? And they're armed. Anybody thought of the idea of school marshals? How about cameras that link to the internet for public viewing? Oh, it's a violation of civil rights. Yeah. How about arming teachers? Oh, no, the teachers might be nuts. The teachers might launch. The teachers might go crazy with some stupid kid smarting off. We can't do that. Well, we got to do something other than listening to the people who told us nationalizing health care would make it cheaper. We got to start doing something besides listening to people who told us that nationalizing health care would allow you to keep your doctor and your policy. How did that work out? It is an utter disaster. An untested national program confiscating 1/6 of the U.S. economy was rolled out that made everything worse. Might have even been done on purpose. But the goal was not to help people, it was to control them. And that's what the anti-Amendment 2 crowd wants to do here. The one consistent problem in this country, the one consistent problem or malady this country suffers from is liberalism. It limits freedom, and as such, it limits innovation. It limits experimentation. Liberalism limits intelligence. It limits new ways of solving problems in exchange for maintaining a status quo that liberals think grants them a political superior position. Americans do not trust the process, and that's what needs to change. Trust the process. Our process was created by the founders. It dispersed power to states and individuals because that's where the genius and sustained exceptionalism of America is. The closer you get to where people live, odds are the politics are going to be very much smarter and more attuned to reality. And that's where you find innovation. That's where trial and error can work itself out in small-scale experiments so that we never get to events like this. But with the feds running everything about this, and with the Democrat Party dominated by liberalism pushing to wipe out the Second Amendment, we're never going to get to what really is happening here. Back in just a moment. Got an email during the break. What do you mean? What do you mean liberalism is the one consistent problem the country suffers from? Well, I'll tell you what I mean by it. It's not complicated at all. Liberalism. Call it the Democrat Party. I don't care what you call it. Liberalism and the Democrat Party, American left, never allows us to name or identify a problem. We're never allowed to actually identify a problem. It's racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe to do so. If we can't identify a problem, if we can't be honest about what the problem is, you can forget about solving it. And that's why we deal with this endless loop. Same stuff. Over and over and over. I don't care if it's a budget, if it's immigration, school shootings, bad public education, failing cities, stupid health care proposals. There are solutions to every one of these issues, proven solutions, but we can't talk about them because political correctness, which is the official language of liberalism, denies us the opportunity.